and today I'm going to show you how to make two versions of this bracelet, which I'm calling the Midnight Blue bracelet. So this is using the Midnight Blue treasure bag. However, the beads that are more difficult to find, I have substituted with easier to find beads. These 6mm rounds are in your treasure bag. However, you can use any 6mm round you want. The black ones are not in the treasure bag. I do have some on my website. Doesn't matter though, you can use any 6mm round beads you would like. So these are the two versions I have made. This is the one that I make in full on the video today, and then towards the end I show you exactly how to modify to make the same bracelet with the 6mm rounds. So you will know exactly how to do this version, because most people have 6mm rounds and seed beads in their stash, and they can go ahead and make this bracelet. And you can do, of course, any color scheming you would like. This looks a little Southwest with the color scheming that I have done here. However, this one with the clear crystals, I mean, you could very well do this with pink and purple or whatever color you want. This one has a little bit of a Southwest flair, but not totally. And I think that if you just go dig in your stash, you can find something really pretty to make these. Now let's go ahead and look at the material list and get started on these bracelets. Okay, for this project today, we will be using some beads from the January treasure bag, the Midnight Blue treasure bag. However, we will also be exploring some options that you can do without the treasure bag. So in this particular tutorial, I'm adding seed beads to the treasure bag, and I'm just using one strand. We have these flat, round, frosted, and faceted little clear beads. And we're using that strand. You have a full strand of these, and we'll be using those. They are 6mm by 4, I believe. And then we're going to be using some seed beads. So I have an 8/0, and this is nickel plate, Toho. And then I have an 11/0 in 3 different colors. So I have the nickel plate, I have a Toho, and I believe this is a turquoise pearlized AB. And then I have an 11/0 jet black. Now, you can use just one color. You don't have to use all the colors I'm using. You can just use one, you can use 2, whatever you'd like. If you do not have this strand of beads, then you can use a 6mm round. In your treasure bag, you have 6mm round turquoise color, and I will be demonstrating with the 6mm round turquoise color and 6mm round just plain black beads. So I'll alternate the 2 colors. You can use anything 6mm round that you want. I will show you how to make the first strand with these beads, and then when we've come pretty far on that one, then I will show you the slight change it takes to use a 6mm round. So I will show you both methods in this tutorial. You'll also need a clasp. There are some toggle clasps that came in the treasure bag. We'll be using one of those. If you don't have the treasure bag, use whatever kind of clasping you would like. And then I'm going to be using some 10-pound nanofill and a size 12 beading needle. You can also use 6-pound Fireline, and you can also use a a size 10 beading needle. So we're going to thread onto our beading needle at least a wingspan of thread. A wingspan is when you spread your arms out to your side like they're wings and you're going to fly away. You measure from the fingertips on the first arm, the length of that arm across your chest, the length of the second arm, to your fingertips on that arm. So you will probably need to extend your Fireline or nanofill during this project, and I will post a link to a video that will show you how to do that if you do not know how to do that. So let's go ahead and thread our beading needles and get started. Okay, after threading your needle, you're going to begin this project by picking up 4 8/0 seed beads onto your needle. I'm using my Toho nickel 8/0s. And then you're just going to bring them down to the end of the thread, leaving a couple inches of tail, enough to hold on to and enough to tie a knot with. We'll get you in a little closer. Now we're going to go up through the first bead on your tail side. So just up through this bead, hold on to the beads, hold on to the tail, and then just pull your needle through until you have something that looks like this. Now, these are going to slip, so as you sew through, don't pull really hard and keep a grip on your tail so that you won't pull your beads through. So what we're going to do is we're coming out of this first bead right here. We're going to sew down into the next one. Hold on to the beads between your thumb and your finger and bring your thread through. And then go into the next 8-0. Again, holding onto the tail and all the beads between your thumb and your finger so you can give a little tug and get some tension on it. Then go into the next bead. We are going to go ahead and sew through one more time and then tie a knot. So we're just going to go through all the beads again. We're right where our tail and our working thread meet. Just bypass that tail, go through your beads one more time. Until you're all the way around again where your tail and your working thread meet. So we're right here. Now we're going to take the tail and the working thread and we're just going to tie a surgeon's knot. So just bring them across each other until they form a loop and then go through that loop twice with the tail. And then bring that knot down and pull tightly so that you have a knot between the beads, like this. And let's just make sure it gets tight. And then we are going to sew through the bead that we're next to. So we were coming out where the knot is between the beads, we're going to sew through the next bead. Now we're going to put our clasping on here and then we'll work our way back down and begin the actual project. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and I'm going to use my black ones. I'm going to alternate colors with my 11-0s as I do this. So I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s and one of my nickel 8-0s. I'm going to drop this down to my piece, just like this. Then I'm going to go through my clasp and bring it down to my beads. And this is what you have. Now we're coming out of this side, so we're going to go through this 8-0 and just the 8-0. So just put your needle through the 8-0, hold on to it, pull your thread through, and direct your thread over to the other side. So we're coming out of this side, we want to go to the other side. We're going to, let me get you even closer so you can see it. Now we're going to go through the side with the tail on it. So we're going to pick up 2 more 11-0s. We're coming out of the 8-0, and then we're going to go into the 8-0 we're connecting to right here. So I'm going to pick this up between my thumb and my finger. I'm going to hold my tail out of the way and just pull these beads down. And this is what you have. Now we're going to go ahead and sew up through this again. We'll sew all the way around the unit to make sure it's secure, and then we can cut down our tail a little bit. So let's go ahead and pick this up. And we should be coming out of the 8-0, but I slid up through this 11-0 also. So come out of the 8-0, go up into the 2 11-0s, up into the 8-0 connected to the clasp, go through the clasp, hold on to it, and pull your thread through. And give a little tug. And then we're now coming out of the clasp. We go back down into the 8-0, and then into the 2 11-0s on this side. Hold on to it, move my tail out of the way, and pull. Now go back through the 8-0 that you're attaching to. Just like this. Now we're going to go ahead and sew around the unit again so we can cut our tail off, and then we'll go up through the clasp one more time. So go around the tail, go into the 8-0 next to the one you're coming out of. So you're coming out of this one here you've attached your clasping to. Go into this 8-0, and then this 8-0 on the bottom. If it would quit arguing with me, I could actually show you how to do this. And then up through this one. And then we're going to go into the one we're attached to, the clasp is attached to. Now I can get rid of this tail, get it out of my way. I'm going to cut it down, leaving a little bit of a tag so I can burn that down later, and it will also help from everything pulling out if it's not completely secure. So just cut it down some, and then let's sew up through this clasping one more time. So I'm coming out of this 8-0, I'm going to go up into these two 11-0s, I'm going to go up into the 8-0 the clasp is on, and then through the clasp, just like this. Now I'm coming out of the clasp, I'll go down into the 8-0 and the two 11-0s on the other side. Now we have 3 passes of thread through that clasp, and that should be nice and secure. We're going to go back into this 8-0 here, and this is why you want a small thread and a small needle, because we sew through these beads quite a bit. So a size 12 needle and some 10-pound nanofill or some 6-pound Fireline is going to be your best bet. Then we're going to go down into the side unit bead here, and then we're going to go into the bottom. Just like that. And this is what we have now. We're going to begin our first unit. And we're going to alternate our colors, but since I started with black on the clasping, I'm going to go ahead and start with black on my main unit. So I'm going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, and then I'm going to pick up my clear crystal. Now, if you are doing this with a 6mm round, you will pick up 3 11-0s, your 6mm round, and 3 11-0s. And I will show you that also. We're going to go through the opposite side from which we're coming out of this bead, just like this. And we're going to pull this down till you have something that looks like this. Now we're going to sew back through this to secure it. So we're going to go into these 2 11-0s, hold on to your beads, give a little tug, go through the crystal, give a little tug, go up through these 2 11-0s on this side, tighten, and then we have to sew one more time down through these beads and through the crystal. So we'll go into this 8-0 and then these 2 11-0s here, and then into the crystal, just like that. I'm going to back off just slightly, and now we're going to do the bottom half of the unit. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0s, and I'm going to do this in black still. I'll do the whole unit in the same color, and then the next unit I will change to the next color of 11-0s. So you pick up 2 11-0s, an 8-0, and 2 11-0s. This is what I have on my needle, and then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the crystal, just like this. Hold on to that crystal and pull these beads down. So it looks like this. Now we're going to sew back through that so that it's nice and secure. So go through these 2 11-0s. If it loosens, just pull it until it comes back up. And then go through the 8-0, the 2 11-0s, and then go back through the crystal. Now we have to sew through it one more time on the bottom so that we can work our way around. Seems like a lot of sewing through, but you want this to be nice and tight and neat and strong. And doing this will ensure all of those things. I know some people don't like to sew through that much, but you really need to with this pattern. So we're going to go back through until we come out of these 11-0s on this side. So go through these 2 11-0s and the 8-0 here. Then go through these 2 11-0s and exit and pull. Now we have our bead framed, except for we have these two little gaps here. So we're going to fill in the gaps with 8 So you want to try to keep your bead from spinning around. They will spin around a little bit in here, which is okay because then you see the faceted side. But as you're doing this, try to keep it flat and then pick up an 8 and then go into the 8 or the 11 across from the 11 you're coming out of. So just skip over this big gap, go into these 11 You can also go into the 8 up here, and then just hold on to your unit, pull your thread, and pop that 8 down in between. And then I'm going to turn this a little bit, and I'm going to go through these two 11 because I'm coming out of the 8 here, and I'm going to pull my thread through, and then I'm going to grab an 8 seed bead, and I'm going to travel down into these two 11 and then exit the 8 here. Pull this down so that it's nice and tight, and this is what you have. Now, let me get you a little closer so you can see it. Now we are going to make a little extension so we can make our next unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11 and this time I'm going to use my nickel 11 and then a nickel 8 and then a nickel 11 just like this. And I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8 I'm coming out of, right here. And I'm going to hold on to all the beads and pull this down. This is what we have, and we're going to sew through these so that it's nice and secure and won't slip as we try to do our next stitch. So we're coming out of this 8 we're going to go down into this 11 right here. Hold on to it. And then go into this 8 go into this 11 here, and then go into the 8 we started in, right here. And this is what we have. Now we have to sew down to this bead here to start our next unit. So we're going to go down into this bead, and then into the 8 and we are going to do another unit. So this time I'm going to pick up turquoise beads. So I'm going to pick up two 11 and my crystal, and two 11 and my turquoise color. And then I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 8 I'm coming out of, and I'm going to pull this down. Now you can use any color scheming you want with your 11 You don't have to do the color scheming I have. Use any colors you want. You could even do this in just all metallics. You could do a bronze, gold, and whatever. Bronze, gold, and even a silver mixed with it. Now we're coming out of this 8 I'm holding on to my crystal here, and I'm going to go into these two 11 Hold on to it, pull it down, tighten it up, and sew through again. So I'll go through this crystal, and then back up through this side, and then into the two 11 over here. Now I have 2 passes of thread through, and it's nice and tight and secure. It's not moving around, and it's stronger. So let me back off just a little because I think I'm getting out of frame. Then we're going to go into the crystal here. Then we're going to pick up two 11 in the turquoise color, an 8 my nickel, and two 11 in turquoise. Then we're going to go into the opposite side of the crystal here. Pull it down, and then sew back through. So I'm going through these two 11 I need to put my thumb and finger together so I can pull and tug on it without it going everywhere. Then I'm going to go through these 3 beads. I need to put my thumb and finger together and give it a little tug and go back into the crystal. Now I'm going to sew back through these one more time to get into my position so that I can put in the 8 O's between the gaps here. So now I'm coming out of these 11 O's right here. I'm going to pick up an 8 O and I'm going to go through these 3 beads right here and pull it through, and then I'm going to turn and I'm going to go through these 2 11 O's right here. So I'm coming out of the 8 O, I'm going to go into these right here and pull my thread through, pick up an 8 O, go into these 2 11 O's and exit the 8 O on the bottom, just like this. Pull it down tight, make sure that your crystal is arranged nice in the middle of it, just like this, and then we'll make our next extension. So we'll pick up an 11 O, an 8 O, and an 11 O. Go into the opposite side of the 8 O you're coming out of, hold on to it, pull your thread through. I'm going to turn it so I can position myself better, and I'm just going to sew through all of these beads now. So I'll go through this first 11 O, and it's better if you did one at a time. I got 2 here, but just to retain the shape. And then I'm going to go through this one here. Then I'm going to go through the one I'm connected to, and then I'm going to sew back down to this bottom one here. So I'll straighten out the side here and then into the bottom. And this is what I have. Now I'm going to begin another unit. And this is very repetitious from this point on for the main part of the bracelet. So we're going to pick up 2 11 O's, this time I'm going to use black. Then we're going to pick up a crystal, and then we're going to pick up 2 11 O's. And we're going to go into the other side. Then we're going to sew back through this. So I'm going to go down into these 2 11 O's, into the crystal, into these 2 11 O's and the 8 O, back down into these 2 11 O's, and then into the crystal. Then we're going to pick up 2 11 O's, and of course it'll be black, and then an 8 O and 2 11 O's. This is what I have. I'm going to go into the opposite side of the crystal, like this. Put my thumb and finger over it, pull tight, and reposition a little bit here. And then I'm going to sew back through this part. So we're going to go through the bottom. We're going to go through the 2 11 O's. We're going to go through the 8 O and the 2 11 O's. Try to get my crystal straightened out there. As you're holding it, you can flatten the crystal out. And like I said, you will get some turning anyway, which is kind of pretty. You can see these have kind of turned to the side. It's okay, but you want to make sure you have enough room for it to be flat also. So just kind of hold your crystal flat, pull your thread through, and then we're going to sew through this one more time. And now I'm in position to put my 8 O seed beads in the little gaps. So I'm going to pick up an 8 O. I'm going to go into these 2 11 O's and the 8 O on top here. Pull this down. And then I'm going to go through these 2 11 O's. Straighten my crystal back out here. And I will pick up an 8 O. And go through these 2 11 O's and through the 8 O here. Come on, Gina, you can do it. Okay, So now I'm ready to do my extension. So I'm going to pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0. Go back into the 8-0 I'm coming out of, sew through this again, and then we will do our next unit, and I will use my turquoise 11-0s. Of course, I will sew down into the bottom unit, or to the bottom bead of this little unit here, and begin my next one exactly the same as I've done these others. So if you need to, just back up the video and watch the units, and follow it as many times as you need to until you get the hang of it, and then you can just go to length. So we're going to continue until we have 11 units. So I have made my 11 units, and now we're going to discuss length of this bracelet. So if you make 11 units, you're going to end up with what I have here. You measure from the middle of the toggle, and at the very end here, we are just about 6 1/4 inches. We want to put on our last unit and then our clasping, which is going to give us the rest of our inch. So we will end up with around a 7-inch bracelet. Now, if you want a smaller bracelet, if you have a very small wrist, then you are going to make 10 units. If you need a larger bracelet, you have a larger wrist, you're going to want to make 12 units. This will adjust about an inch for you. So then, after you have made your last unit here, you can see I just made the extension around the crystal, so the encasing around the crystal. Now I need to make my end. So instead of picking up an 11-0, 8-0, 11-0 like we've been doing in between the units, because we started with 4 8-0s here, and because we're going to pass so much thread through because of the clasping, we're going to use 3 8-0s. The one on the unit is our 4th. So we're going to pick up 3 8-0 seed beads, and we're going to go into the opposite side of the 8-0 we're coming out of. And then we're just going to sew back through them. So I'm just going to sew through this one, and then up through this one, and then through this one, and then into the bead we are attaching to, and then we have to sew up to the top again. Okay, so this is what we have now. I hope I was in frame there. And we're going to put on the other end of our clasping, and then I think I'll show you how to extend your fireline or your nanofield, because we're going to do an embellishment and we're going to need a lot more thread, and I'm pretty short on thread here. So I'm coming out of this 8-0 here. I am going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to do it in the black like I did on the other side, and then an 8-0. I'm going to drop the 2 11-0s and the 8-0 down, and I've lost my needle. Okay, so I put my needle back on. I have dropped down 2 11-0s and an 8-0, and then I'm going to go through the clasp here and drop it down, and then I'm going to go back through just the 8-0 here. I'm going to pick up the 8-0 between my fingers and pull my thread through. Bring that clasp down to that 8-0, and then I'm going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and go through the other side of the 8-0 here. Now, just like we did on the other side, we're going to sew through this 2 more times, and we'll be back. Okay, so now I have secured my clasping. I'm coming out of the 8-0 seed bead that I attached my clasping to, and now I need to extend my thread. So I had about 6 to 8 inches left, and I cut it down to about 3. So I have enough room to make my extension. So what we're going to do to add thread is we're going to take our new thread, and I've cut about over an arm's length, probably about half a wingspan, to do this with. And I'm going to put my new thread underneath my tail thread on my project, and then I'm going to bring that tail thread underneath the working thread again, like this, and then I'm going to bring the tail thread and the new thread together, and on the top here I'm going to cross one under the other and then bring the one that's under the one I crossed over into the circle, the loop here, and then I'm just going to pull this down like this. Now I can pull my excess thread through, and what I have here is a square knot, just like this. Now I am going to cut these little ends down so that I don't have a whole lot of thread to pull to join the little blobs I'm going to create here. And you'll see what I mean in a minute. I'm going to get you really close. So now I have my two little ends. My knot is under my fingernail there, and I'm going to get a lighter, and towards the bottom of the flame, I'm just going to get the flame close, and I'm going to melt down little blobs on my thread like this. Now, when we pull these two ends together, those two little blobs join, and that is your extension. And it's really strong, it doesn't break, and if you keep those little blobs small, you only want to put them in the flame or near the flame for just a second, keep them small, then your joint will be very small and it'll pass through your beads just fine. So that's how you extend your thread, and then I'm going to put my needle on my new thread and we will get started with the embellishments. Okay, so as you can see, I'm coming out of this 8/0 seed bead. I need to sew around until I come out of this one here so that I can make my embellishment from this bead to this bead. So I'm just going to pick this up, and I'm going to sew up through this side bead in our unit that attaches the clasping, and then into the top bead. Pull this through, and then into the side bead here. I'm going to pull this through. Try not to grab my clasp there. And you can see my extension slid right through just fine. And now I'm going to back off just a little bit, just so I stay in camera nicely. And I'm going to start a little embellishment from this bead to this bead, and I'm going to pick up the opposite color of the color that is on the unit. So I have black on here. I'm going to pick up the other color, which is my turquoise, and I'm going to pick up 4 beads like this, and I'm just going to slide into this 8/0 seed bead on the side of my unit, and I'll hold on to it and just pull my thread through like this. And this is what I have. Now I need to sew through these beads and then come down into this 11/0. So we're still going to be going from side bead to the 8/0 in the units. However, now the side bead will be 11/0s. So we need to sew through the 2 11/0s here. I'm coming out of the 8/0. So I need to sew through these 2 11/0s right here and this 8/0, just like this. I'm going to pull this through, and then I'm going to go down into this 11/0 right here. Now I am on the top opposite side from the embellishment I just did on the other unit. So this one will be on this side, this one on this side, this one on this side as we work our way down. We're coming out of this bead here. We're going to now pick up the other color of 11/0s because this one is now turquoise. I'm going to pick up my black ones. And I'm just going to go down into this 8/0 right here on the unit and pull. And I picked up too many beads. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I picked up 5. So let me fix that. Sorry, guys. Sometimes I get a little carried away. Let me pull off one of these beads. And you'll know immediately if you have too many or not enough because it won't lay properly on your piece. So now I have my 4 beads, and I'm going to go into this 8/0 here and pull this down. And you can see now it lays nicely. Now I have to go through these two 11-0s and this 8-0 and this 11-0 on my joining unit. So I'll go down into these two 11-0s right underneath the 8-0 I'm coming out of, go into the 8-0 on the bottom of the unit, pull my needle through and all my thread, and then let me turn this. Then I will go up into the 11-0 on the side of the next unit here, right there. And now I will pick up my turquoise beads. I'll pick up 4 of them. Go into the 8-0 here, and you can go ahead and go through the two 11-0s and the 8-0 on the bottom too. I was just showing you individually before so that you would be very clear what beads you had to go through. And now I'm in position to go into my 11-0 here and then make my embellishment from that 11-0 to this 11-0, and of course I'll use black. We're going to continue doing this, going from one side to the next on each unit until we're at the very end of the bracelet. Okay, so now I have done my embellishment all the way to the end. I'm going to put the very last little 11-0s on this unit, and then we will tie off. And then I will show you the modification with the 6mm round beads very quickly, and that way you will know how to make 2 bracelets. So you can even use the 6mm round turquoise beads in your bag also to do this. So I'm going to pick up my last 4 beads here, and I'm just going to go, I'm coming out of my 11-0 in my joining unit, and I'm just going to go up into this 8-0. Then again, I'm going to go ahead and travel through the two 11-0s and the 8-0 on the unit. Let me get you just a little closer here. And now I'm going to sew around this unit again that has the clasping on it, come back through and tie a knot. So this is just going to make sure that my thread is wound through. If you want to, you can go ahead and sew back up through your clasping again too, which I think I'll do, just to make sure I have enough enough tension on this, enough strength. So I'm just going to go up into my clasping, just like I did before, down into this 8-0, which is nice and tight against this clasp now, so it's going to take me a second. Come down this side, and then I can go back into this 8-0 here, and then right here, get even closer, between these two 8-0s on the thread bridge that connects the two of them, I'm going to go underneath and through with my needle, make a little loop, and then go through the loop and pull a knot down. Then I'm going to go ahead and sew into the next 8-0, and then this 8-0 here. Come on, go through. Sorry guys, drank a little bit too much coffee this morning and my hands are a little shaky. There we go, right there. And now I am coming out of this 8-0 here. I can go ahead and grab between the 11-0 and the 8-0 another loop, make another knot. Just make sure that you guide it down between those two beads, just like that. And then I can sew down into my side here. And then into these two here. I'm just going to poke this through this embellishment and bring it to the back side here. And I will cut this off, leaving a little tag. Now, you'll need to burn down your other tag you left for the tail when we began. I already did that off camera, so I'm just going to show you how to do this one. I have a little bit of a tag here. And I'm just going to get my lighter close, and I'm just going to melt that down so that it curls into the beads like that. And then I'll just straighten everything up. Now when you're putting these embellishments on, you want to make sure there's no slack, but don't pull really tight because then you're going to lose length in your bracelet and it's not going to lay really nice and neat. You want it just enough tension to where there's no slack, and that's what that looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and put it on. And I did lose a tiny bit of length with my embellishments. I should have probably gone 12 units for my wrist instead of 11, but it's fine. It's not real tight, but I like a little bit more movement usually. So this is what I've ended up with, and I think it's really cute. It's a really pretty little bracelet. Let's get you a little closer so you can see the units. Just really cute. Get over there where you're supposed to be. There we go. And let's go ahead and look at the 6mm round version. Okay. So as you can see, I am making a version of the exact same thing. I started it exactly the same way, doing everything just like we just learned in the other bracelet, except for I am using 6mm round beads. And I'm using the turquoise color that's in the bag, and I added some black ones with it. I do have some on my website if you want some. However, you can just change the color of the seed beads just like we did on this one instead of changing the color of the bead too. You don't have to have two colors. But I just thought it created a little bit more interest. Since my turquoise are kind of different colors and stuff, I just kind of decided I would put the black in there. So everything is the same except for when you make your unit, and we'll go ahead and make one here. When you make your unit, you will pick up 3 11-0 seed beads instead of 2. So I'm coming out of my 8-0, just like I did on the other bracelet, to make my next unit, and I'm going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to use my turquoise color this time. I'm going to pick up one of my black 6mm rounds because I'm alternating colors, and I'm just going to bring this down, and then I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-0 seed beads. I have an extension here, that's why I'm bringing this down like that. So you pick up 3, and then your 6mm round, and then 3, and then you go back into your 8-0 seed bead on your little extension between your units, just like this. Then we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to sew through the top of this. So we'll go through the 3 11-0s here, through the 6mm round, and then through the 3 11-0s on this side, and the 8-0. Oh, can't do that, my extension's there, so I'm just going to pull this all back together and then go into the 8-0 here. And then I have to sew back through these and back through the 6mm round. So we'll go through these 3 11-0s here, back into the bead, the big bead. Then we'll make the bottom just like we did on the other units. 3 11-0s this time, and then an 8-0 and 3 11-0s. And I will show you what I have here, just like this, and go through. Come up through. Pull it through, go back through the bead, and then I need to sew back around so that I can then put in my 8-0s. So this is a little bit different shape because I have 3 instead of 2, but 2 isn't quite big enough for the 6mm round. 3 is a little bit bigger, so you get more of a kind of diamond shape around the beads, but it's still pretty and it works out great. So I'm now coming out of these 11-0s. I'm going to pick up my 8-0, go into the next 3 11-0s, and the 8-0 behind them. Then I will work into the 3 11-0s on this side, just like this, except for I only got 1. Let me get all 3. There we go. pull this through and pick up an 8/0, go through these 3, and then I will come up through this 8/0 here. I will pick up my 11/0, 8/0, 11/0, make an extension, and then make my next unit exactly like I did before. Now this time I think I will make one more unit and put on my clasping, and then I'll come back and show you just the little modification that you will need for your embellishments. I will also show you exactly how many units I did, because I think I'm going to make this one more unit longer. And with this one, because the beads are bigger and longer, I didn't have to make as many units to start with. So I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I have 10, and it is the same length as my other one. I hope I was in camera. So it is the same length as my other one, with 10 instead of 11. I'm going to go ahead and make 11 for this one too. It's going to be a little longer, and it should fit me a little better once I do my embellishments. If I get any shrinkage, it will work out better for my wrist. So you'll just want to judge how long you want to make yours, and take into consideration you're going to get just a little bit of shrinkage. I cannot tell you exactly how much, but you will get a little bit of shrinkage. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'll make one more, I'll put on my clasping, I'll come back, and I'll show you how to do the embellishments for the 6mm round piece. Okay, so I went ahead and added an extra unit on this one so you can see it's a little bit longer. At this point, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 11 units on this, and it is about a 7.5-inch bracelet, which is fine, because if I get a little shrinkage, then it'll be fine, because usually a 7-inch works really well for me. This one should have turned out to be a 7-inch, but with the shrinkage, it's closer to a 6.5-inch bracelet. If I put it halfway through the toggle here, it's closer to a 7 or a 6.5-inch bracelet, which my wrist is 6.5 inches, so it's a little bit tight on me. So you may want to go, or you should, if you want a 7-inch bracelet, you should go 12 units instead of 11. Just so you know the shrinkage that happens with this, because I'm designing this as I'm showing you, so found that out a little late. It still works for me, but it would have been better if I had gone 12 units. And I want you to know that, so that you don't make your whole bracelet and then yell at me because I was wrong. So that's what that one is. And now this one, I am coming out of, I went ahead and put on my clasping and I secured it. And I thought I was going to have to modify the embellishment, but I have found out that I do not. So instead of, I thought I'd have to pick up 5 seed beads on this one instead of 4, but it's working out just fine to pick up 4. Now, of course, if your beads are a little bit different size than mine, because as you can see, these are both 6mm round beads. However, I think the turquoise is a little bit closer to a 7mm round, because my 6mm round black beads are a little bit smaller. So you may have to modify how many seed beads you put on. Just make sure it lays out nice. If 4 doesn't work, try 3. If 3 doesn't work, or if that doesn't work, then try 5. Whatever you need to do. You get the idea of what I'm saying here, even though I'm jumbling it up. So I'm coming out of the side of this unit that we put the clasping on, and I've picked up 4 of my turquoise color seed beads, and I'm just going to lay that down, and that works pretty good. So now I can go into the 3 11/0s here, and this is a little tighter. The stitch is a little tighter around the 6mm rounds. I don't know why, but it is. So it takes a little bit more work to get through these 8/0s here, probably because the 11/0s just lay against it a little tighter. So you have to go through this 8/0 here. Try not to get the 11/0 behind it. And then sew down into the 11-0 here between the units. Let me get you closer. I'm a little far away so you can see. It's the same thing we just did, except for when you're doing the ones with the 6mm rounds, the 11-0s lay closer to the beads and they're a little bit harder to get to. So I'm going through this little 11-0 here, and now I'm going to pick up my black 11-0s, and I'm going to pick up 4 of them, go through this 8-0 here, and I'm going to go ahead and try to go through that 8-0 and the 11-0s at the same time. It's a little bit easier than trying to squish into that 8-0. So we're going to go here and pull this down. And you can see that works out just fine with the 4. So then I will sew into this side one here in my extension unit, and again I will pick up my embellishment in turquoise color, 4 11-0s, and go into this 8-0 here. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this and tie it off. There we go. And then I'll come back and show you what this version looks like. I think it's really pretty. I kind of almost like it better than this one. Though I like the crystals in here. They kind of spin and move around a little bit, which is fine, but and it's pretty. I like it, but I like this version a little bit better, I think. So let's go ahead and finish this up. I'll come back, show you what it looks like, and we'll be done with this. Okay, so here it is. And I did get quite a bit of shrinkage on this one too. So it was measuring about 7.5 inches, and it is now measuring about 7 1/4. So the thing is, as I was doing this, and I did a couple just to find out, the first one you may need to use 4 seed beads, but I really should have increased it to 5 on each one. Then I would have got less shrinkage, and my beads would not lay on top of my other beads so much. So like this one I did 5, and see how I got that nice loop around it? I don't mind the way it looks. I think it's pretty, but really I suggest experimenting with 4 and 5 seed beads. See which one works better. I think on the very first one I would have used 4 and then gone down into 5 on each one. Now that I see how it turns out, and I would have gotten less shrinkage and my beads would lay out a little bit differently. Although this is pretty the way it is. I mean, I don't mind the beads kind of hopping on top of each other. It's pretty, and it does fit pretty well because it's over 7 inches, so I can wear this pretty well if I can get this on. And it's really pretty. I like the dark and the light together on this. There's my clasping, turned out really nice. Beads look nice. They're laying on my arm just fine, and I think everything looks really pretty on this. So here's the other one, and I think it's really pretty too. Just depends on if you want a bit of sparkle or if you just want a contrasting pop of color. So the two of them work out really well. And I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.